My ex-girlfriend called me a predator for liking feet, so that's what I became. Allison and I were that couple everyone expected to die together. We were neighbors since we were 6, had our first kiss at 12, matching prom photos on both our moms' fridges. I knew her better than I knew myself, from every freckle to every insecurity, and she knew all my quirks too, including my thing for her feet. Never made it weird, I just appreciated them like some guys appreciate eyes or smiles. She'd wiggle her toes at me after I gave her massages and joke about charging me for the privilege. It was ours. Then came the toxic friends from her college group, 2 vicious gossips who lived for destroying relationships over ridiculously priced salads. Every weekend, they'd gather at someone's apartment and pick apart every boyfriend in their social circle. Did you hear about Jessica's man? He watches anime, obviously a pedo. They'd say this crap with total conviction, like they were doing God's work, but Allison hung on every word, desperate to be part of their inner circle. 3 weeks before she dumped me, Allison came home from brunch looking uncomfortable. So I mentioned you bought me that fancy pedicure for my birthday, she said. My friends kind of freaked out. She told me they called foot fetishes gateways for predators. Spent 20 minutes showing her the worst corners of the internet. The fact that he's so open about it is actually more concerning, one had said. They test boundaries before escalating. Allison touched my hand. But I trust you. You're not like those creeps online. I almost believed her. The shift happened almost immediately. I noticed her wearing socks constantly, even in bed. She'd flinch when I touched her feet, started asking probing questions about my real interests. When I tried explaining it was just appreciation, not obsession. She looked at me like I was confessing to murder. Then one day she snapped, my friends opened my eyes to what you really are. The breakup was surgical. 10-minute conversation where she couldn't even look at me. My stuff in garbage bags on her porch. A text saying never contact her again. No explanation beyond, I can't be with someone like you, and no chance to defend myself. 5 years reduced to whispered warnings because 2 bitter women convinced her I was a predator. I barely left my room for 2 weeks, trying to understand how loving someone completely made me a monster in her eyes. That's when Savannah messaged me, coffee? I'm disgusted by what Allison did. Savannah was the quiet third friend from their group. Those 2 have been destroying relationships for years. Hell, Victor got dumped because they said hugging his sister too long was a red flag. That's when she told me she had a plan. See, Savannah was maybe 5 feet 2 inches, baby-faced, the type who got carded everywhere despite being 22 years old. So we decided to have some fun with it. Savannah admitted she actually had a thing for feet too, but never told her friend group for obvious reasons. I have tiny feet and look 19 on a good day, she said, wiggling her toes. So let's use Allison's paranoia against her. I started by posting stories for the first time since the breakup. Started subtle with Savannah's feet barely visible on my couch, then movie night with her feet in my lap, then me massaging them while driving. Within minutes, Allison's username would appear. We thought it was hilarious how obsessed she was with our staged photos, even high five after each post, laughing about how we were living rent-free in their heads. But later that night, someone pounded on my door. I opened it to find 3 cops standing there. We received a report that you're involved with a minor, one said, already pushing past me into my apartment. Where is she? They were actually searching my apartment for a child. Savannah jumped up from the couch as they entered the living room. I'm right here, she said, but I'm 22. I just shop in the kids section. After checking Savannah's ID twice and calling it in, they started laughing. 22? My daughter's 16 and looks older. They apologized and mentioned they'd be having a chat with whoever made the false report. After they left, Savannah and I just stared at each other before bursting into nervous laughter. She actually freaking called the cops, Savannah said, collapsing back on the couch. This is insane. A week later, we were curled up watching a movie when a camera flash lit up my bedroom. I grabbed my phone while whispering to Savannah to stay still and pretend we hadn't noticed. Within minutes, the same cops from before pulled up. We heard shouting in the backyard and through the window. I watched them leading all 3 women to the squad cars in handcuffs. He's with a minor. I have proof. Check their phones. Allison was screaming as they cuffed her. You have to protect her. When the officer asked us to ID the suspects, Savannah threw on my t-shirt and we stepped outside. Allison's face went from righteous fury to complete shock the second she saw who I was with. Savannah? She whispered. Hi, Allison. Savannah replied coldly. As the police cars drove away with all 3 women, Savannah traced circles on my chest. This got more real than we planned, didn't it? I pulled her closer. Yeah, the act worked so well we forgot we were acting. The irony was perfect. Allison became the predator she'd accused me of being, making false reports, taking photos through windows, stalking us online. All 3 spent the night in jail. The neighborhood gossip exploded. Allison's toxic friends vanished from her life immediately. Allison still lives next door, has to watch Savannah's car in my driveway and know she traded 5 years of real love for paranoid whispers.